Hey Neppers, it's me, Wild Neptune, and today in Epic 7, going to go over some of the banners that have been recently announced, including the upcoming ML Lilias. Gonna give my first impressions of her, but before that, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and catch me at Twitch at twitch.tv/WildNeptune. Okay, let's get started. The first unit we'll go over is gonna be Fairytale Tenebria. She's an Ice Mage. She is a limited unit, and this means that you can only get her during her banner, so no other time, no other way. And because of this, I'm gonna front load this by saying that you should pull on her if you don't have her. She's a PvP-centered hero, and her PvE applications are very narrow and very limited, but even if you don't play a lot of PvP, I still recommend that you pull on her if you don't have her. So, look at the base stats right here, and you can take a glance over, and we'll go quickly over her skills, her applications right now, and where she fits into the current meta. We'll go over her skills here, and we'll go over her most defining skill first, which is her S3, Tea Party. So what this does, it is a 1 buff Dispel on an AoE with a 2-turn unbuffable and Redirected Provoke for 1 turn. And if you don't know what Redirected Provoke does, it will do a provoke, but instead of hitting the unit that provoked them, like a lot of provokes do, it instead provokes to the highest HP unit. So she applies the provoke, but the enemies will attack the unit with the most HP, which could be her, but it probably will not be. So see her skill right here. It looks very cool. This is one of the better animations in the game, in my opinion. And there you see all the debuffs and everything like that. Her S2, when an enemy that is provoked, either with provoke or the redirected provoke, she will counterattack and have a chance to inflict a random debuff. And those debuffs are... is there a list here? I know it's Defense Break, Silence, and another one. Here they are. And Unhealable. So, a random one of those 3 debuffs, which is pretty nice. Again, it's also an AoE, and it is on a cooldown. So, and then the S1 is simply a small chance to inflict some poison, and the Soul Burn, though, is an extra turn for 20 souls, which is a very strong Soul Burn, as sometimes, because of how fast she's built a lot of times, she will be able to cycle through and get a Soul Burn to land another S3 to maybe seal the game. Now, this is my Fairytale Tenebria. See the stats here? They are nothing too spectacular, so decent bulk for her. Speed is 270, which is a little bit slower than average, but I think her bulk makes up for it. 192 effectiveness is on the higher side from what I have seen, and she only has 3, well, technically 6 skill ups, but 3 of them are from Friendship. And as you can see right here, I just put 3 moles into here for the cooldown reduction, and then I just put them into here from the free ones from the Friendship. So a very low mole investment hero. Not something that you have to plus 15 or anything like that, which is very, very nice, because having a unit you can just build up with very little mole investment is a very rare thing these days. So, our artifact is Cursed Compass. I do believe right now, this or Crown are her best in slots at the moment. I don't have a high level Crown, so I elected to use this. And you're gonna ask, is that necessary? Do I really need this 50 effectiveness at the start of the battle when I already have like 192 baseline? And yes, not all the time, but a lot more players have built high ER units, so having this little extra percentage here does benefit sometimes. So she's gonna be used mainly in World Arena, as we know, and it's no secret that things like ER Maid have become popular. Things like the new Barrier Guild artifact has become popular. The new ER artifact for the guild is becoming a thing. So definitely ML Cowrick. So definitely a lot more counters for Fairytale Tenebria, but As a late pick in the draft, if a player does not have an answer to her, she becomes a must ban in a lot of cases. So it definitely can seal up your top 4 in a draft, and in scenarios where she does get through and her S3 is meaningful, you are just way ahead of the curve for that particular battle. Her artifact is Fairytale for a Nightmare, and it is a limited artifact. It is a mage 1. This is an interesting artifact. It does fixed damage when the caster attacks outside of their turn. So, like her S2, it is actually not that good on her. I think the only mage I can think of that it is decent on is Champion Zerato, and at the moment, I'd rather run him on Violin. So I would say it's not worth chasing this artifact, even though it's limited. Its use cases are very niche. And it doesn't really scale that well either. Well, it doesn't scale at all, actually, which is the problem. So maybe if it did something like extra damage based on something else too, where it could have more future-proofing. But keep in mind, this artifact came out a year ago, and a year ago, it was kind of niche. Players' gear has gotten stronger recently, so this 1500 has less impact than it did last year. And next year, it'll probably even have less impact. So unless this gets buffed, which I don't think is going to get buffed, it's going to slowly be phased out, even if the actual mechanics of the artifact are good. So if you really want a copy, you can always buy it with powder, but honestly, I don't think this one is worth getting. Very briefly, we'll go over the 2 repeat banners that are coming out. The first one is going to be Ray. He is a Grass Soul Weaver, and he's a high ER cleanser unit to resist those debuffs and to, well, get rid of them for your party. So he's Grass, so ironically good against Fairytale Tenebria, who's going to be the banner with her. That being said, there are a lot of better cleansers out right now. And even when he came out, a lot of players thought, oh, look, he's a better Destina. It turns out that a lot of players think that Destina is still better than he is. So if you really need a cleanser with high ER, you might want to look at Destina instead. Neither of them are really that good right now, because again, there are just a ton of better options and a ton of easier ways to get ER right now, but they are there. So his artifact is Doctor's Bag, and it is an interesting artifact. When a unit uses a non-attack skill, this will trigger, and it will dispel 1 debuff from all allies and have some small HP recovery. It is on a 3-turn cooldown for the artifact. And mainly you see this on things like Elena occasionally, because their S2 passive does proc the artifact, which is interesting. But I would say this artifact is a little bit too niche to chase on a banner, especially like on Ray, where the hero himself isn't really that good right now. And next week, Elena will be rerun. She's an Ice Soul Weaver, and unlike Ray, she does have some niche use in World Arena, mainly against things like Closer Charles Cleave, as she's pretty strong against that. Also against things like Caesarea Cleave, she can have decent ability there, because if she's built on a speed set, her passive plus things like Tome will boost her past Caesarea in a lot of the cases. And against Caesarea Cleave, a lot of the times they won't have a way to clear off a lot of the buffs that you are going to be giving to your team, which is very nice. But again, doesn't always work and kind of niche. So if you do want to pull her for that, do pull with care. Know that she's not a pure counter to that build, and that she's pretty much useless in every other scenario, basically, than the two that I have mentioned. So her artifact, though, is Stella Harpa, and it has a chance to dispel a debuff from an ally after being attacked. This is a very strong artifact right now on Rowana, probably her best in slot, and Rowana has turned into a fairly important hero in, not in World Arena against Bellion, definitely in normal arena, where Bellion is just about everywhere. So, even though I have a copy of this, maybe this is one that you would wait for in the powder shop, or you can get it for the premium. I wouldn't recommend that, but if you really want it, it is there. Elena is a harder one to talk about than Ray, as it's a pretty easy pass on Ray, I think, but Elena, there is some considerations to pull on her if you have the resources ready. And keep in mind that Christmas is soon, and there might be exciting things during that also, so take care of the resources if you plan on getting Elena. And to close it out, go and take a brief look at ML Lilias, just my first impressions of her. So, see right here on her base stats, her speed is really high at 121. Her S1 is simply normal Lilias S1, so random dual attack with a random ally. Her S2, it will distract one enemy, so a single target, decreases CR by 25%, and a 100% chance with the Molas to inflict Read the Bet to Provoke for 1 turn. Soul Burn makes it 2 turns, and against a barrier to herself and with the ally with the highest max HP. So this means that that unit that hits that other unit with the provoked attack, well, hits a barrier instead of their normal HP. So nice synergy all around with this skill, but the skill 3 is really the icing. It will grant your party a Vigor buff for 2 turns. So Vigor is increased attack and defense by 30%, also cannot be dispelled, and I believe this also means cannot be copied. I'm not positive about this, but I'm pretty sure buffs like this can't be stolen or copied, which means that it's probably good against things like River, maybe. That's speculation, but some testing will have to be involved with that. If you don't know, attack buff normally gives 50%, and defense buff normally gives 40%. So this is less than both of them, but it is both of them combined, which is pretty strong. It also decreases the buff durations of all allies, by all enemies, by 1 turn. So this means that things like immunity and the barriers from FCC, stuff like that, well, those are gone. It also has a 100% chance with the Molas to decrease the attack of the enemy team, because it's an AoE, by also 2 turns, which is really good for survivability. On top of that, it also gives an extra turn. So you can use this, right? Strip their buffs, nerf their attack power, give your team a buff, and then you can land this Read the Bet to Provoke on a key enemy of your choice. So, really loaded kit overall. And the 2 turns too is really important here, because if you have souls at this point, you are able to lock down Meteorator Cowrick, as he only cleanses 1 turn debuffs at the start. So his reduction is only 1 turn, and that's really, I think, going to be her real use case, where somebody puts ML Cowrick, and hey, I've ML Lilias here, you better ban my book holder, or you are probably not going to have that good of a time. But her kit feels like it is very strong for a initiate debuffer. Keep in mind too, though, that even beyond ML Cowrick, that there are a lot of high ER units like we talked about before. So it's not like she's going to be coming into the field where she's going to not have any counters, right? She definitely has any unit that is a debuff-centric unit will always have counters in the meta. But she is uniquely placed to be really good against another unit that is strong against units that do similar things that she does. But that's really all I'm going to say about her right now. More in detailed analysis of her as we get closer to her banner. And that's it. I hope you're excited for the stuff coming out in Epic 7. Other things coming out, though, are Repeat Side Story and some other exciting things probably coming up for Christmas, too. Balance notes might be here soon. I don't actually know. But until then, enjoy your time playing the game. I'm Wild Neptune. It's been a good one. Nep out.